Hello, fiber friends. Today we are talking about whether or not you should wash your wool sweaters. So if that sounds like it will be of interest to you, I hope you'll stick around. Hello, knitting friends. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Kristen, and today we are going to be talking about sweater care, specifically whether or not you should wash your sweaters. Spoiler alert, yes. As well as other ways of cleaning and taking care of your hand knit wool sweaters and cardigans. So before I get started today, I am wearing my Snowy Forest pullover. This is a pattern by Midori Hirose, or however that is pronounced. All right, so around the holiday season, I started seeing a fair number of reels or TikToks being reposted as reels on Instagram for those of us in middle age about caring for your wool sweaters. I guess it was just that time of year. And one in particular caught my attention because it was so very, very wrong. However, I can't find it now, and I didn't download it at the time. So I wish I could share it here with you. Unfortunately, I cannot. But we're going to talk about what it got wrong anyway. So the basic gist of this reel or TikTok, as the case may be, was that you should never wash your wool sweaters. Washing your wool sweaters will get all the lanolin out of them, and you want to keep the lanolin. So instead, you should just air your sweaters out and freeze them to kill the bacteria.
Stupidest thing I ever heard.
I agree.
So, is there any truth to this? Let's talk about what this TikTok reel got very, very wrong and some things it kind of got right. So to start, yes, absolutely, you do need to wash your wool sweaters occasionally. However, you don't need to wash them that often. You don't need to wash them every time you wear them. And if you take the proper precautions and preparations, you really only have to wash them once or twice a year, depending on where you live. So if you are wearing sweaters from, let's say, October through March, 1 or 2 washes is fine. If you wear sweaters year-round, maybe you do a little bit more. But you don't need to wash your sweaters very often, and overwashing your sweaters can actually be bad for the fabric. So that part is a little bit true. Second, that washing your sweaters gets rid of all the lanolin. Wool, to be processed into yarn, goes through much washing, scouring, cleaning. By the time your wool has gone from a sheep to a skein of yarn and then into your sweater, it has been washed many times. Most of the lanolin has probably already been washed out. Additionally, most experts believe that what people see as a wool allergy or a wool sensitivity is actually an allergy or a sensitivity to the lanolin and not the wool itself.
Is that sweater made of bees?
So you might not necessarily even want lanolin in your wool. Now, it does have some good properties, particularly for sheep. It contributes to sort of the waterproofness of their wool, and probably does some other good stuff. I'm not a super expert. But so much lanolin has already been washed out of your yarn and your sweater by the time you have it. You washing it is really not going to have much of an impact, especially if you're using a wool wash. And 3, most obviously, freezing doesn't kill bacteria. That's how we preserve bacteria in some cases, like when we, not me personally, but scientists are trying to study bacteria. If you freeze bacteria, it generally goes dormant. It does not die. So that's just kind of dumb. Now, freezing will kill moth larvae or carpet beetles, so maybe that's where that came from, but it doesn't kill bacteria. Heat kills bacteria. So that part, super duper wrong.
Wrong.
So what did this TikTok actually get right? 1, you don't need to wash your sweaters that often. And 2, airing your sweaters can be good for them. So let's talk about how we're actually taking care of our sweaters so that we don't have to wash them multiple times. My number 1 tip for this is to always wear a layer under your sweaters. Preferably this would be a natural fiber like cotton that you would wear not really for insulation, but to protect your sweater from you. So if you wear a layer under your sweater, that layer is what's going to absorb all of your sweat and oils and other, human grossness rather than your sweater. And a cotton t-shirt is much more washable than your hand knit sweater. You can just throw it in with the regular laundry. You can throw it in the dryer. So as much as possible, I recommend a layer under your sweaters.
You're going to want layers.
Second, spot cleaning is going to be your friend. So if you spill something on your sweater,
Spilled milk!
you don't have to wash the whole sweater. Just wash whatever it is. So one thing about wool, which we talked about a little bit, is that it tends to be waterproof. So if you spill something on the fiber, as long as you kind of get it off really quickly, it's not likely to soak in. So in terms of liquid, if you are spilling a liquid on your sweater, you want to kind of brush it off as soon as you can. Use paper towels. Try to prevent it from soaking in. If it's something else, something a little more solid, then again, you're going to go with spot cleaning rather than trying to wash the whole sweater to clean something small. And again, because the wool is naturally going to repel any kind of liquid element of what you're spilling, it might be easier to let it dry, whatever it is, and then just brush it off. Really depends on what it is. Third, and the one mention in the TikTok that was correct, is airing out your sweaters. So first, every time you wear your sweaters, you shouldn't take them off, immediately fold them up, and shove them in your drawer or whatever. Let them air out. Let them sit out for the night. Just give odors and things a chance to evaporate, etc. However, something that's really nice to do is if you've got a cool, windy day, and I should be doing this right now, but I'm not because I'm doing this, is if you've got like a drying rack for your regular laundry, put all your sweaters on there, take them outside.
Oh, fresh air.
Maybe set them in some sunlight. That can be good, although it can have a negative impact on the dye, so you have to be careful about that. And let them sit out in the wind, and it's really going to air them out, get rid of any, because they can absorb smells and things, get rid of any of that, and the wind, brush away any surface dust or dirt. Really nice to air them out outdoors if you are able to, every few weeks maybe. Depends on your climate, where you live. It's not essential, but it can really freshen up your sweaters. And but at minimum, don't kind of take your sweaters off and immediately store them. Give them a chance to air out. Drape them over a drying rack or something, even just overnight. And then another one, and I'm sure if you were on Instagram or on TikTok, you have seen this one recently. Really depends on your climate, but snow washing. So the concept behind snow washing is you're going to take your sweaters outside, you're going to bury them in the snow, leave them out there for a little bit, 20, 30 minutes, dig them up, shake them out. The snow is going to absorb some of the odors. It's going to absorb some of the surface dust and dirt and oils. And then once you shake them out, it's going to go with the snowflakes off back into nature, and it's going to freshen up your sweater. So it's called snow washing. It's not really washing because of the water repellent properties of the wool. It's not going to absorb the liquid from the snow. Key here is that it really should be like a very light, powdery, dry snow. So when the temperature is very cold, if it's like 33 degrees, that's a very, wet snow. That's probably not going to work. But a nice powdery snow will work for this. It'll trap some of the surface stuff, and when you brush the snow off, those things will go with it, and it will freshen up your sweater without, actually soaking the fabric. We are supposed to get maybe a foot of snow this weekend, and it probably will be good for this, so I might try it. But it's not going to be before this video goes live. So if I do, you'll be able to find maybe a reel on Instagram, or I'll put a short up here on YouTube if I do get a chance to try this. I would like to. We don't tend to get a lot of snow here, and when we do, it doesn't tend to be that kind of dry, powdery snow. However, this weekend, again, we are supposed to get a big winter storm, and the temperatures are supposed to be well below freezing. So this may be the ideal snow for that, and I will try it out. So putting all of these things together, wearing a layer underneath, airing out your sweaters, spot cleaning, and snow washing if you can, is going to minimize the number of times that you need to wash your sweaters during sort of the sweater season, whatever that is for you. So how do we actually wash our sweaters when the time comes? If you're an experienced knitter, you probably already know this. This can also apply to non-hand knit sweaters, assuming that they are wool. Don't use your washing machine.
Not in the washing machine.
Even if it has a wool setting. If it has a wool setting, use that for like socks. Use that for hats and mittens. I wouldn't use it for your sweaters. It's too much agitation. It's too much water. It's just too much. Even superwash. I wouldn't put your sweaters in the washing machine. You do you, but don't say I didn't warn you. And the other thing is, if you're only washing your sweaters once or twice a year, it's not that big of a deal to hand wash them. If you are washing your sweaters every day, which you shouldn't be, then yeah, it would make sense to attempt to use the washing machine. No washing machines. You're gonna hand wash your sweaters. I will put a little B-roll in here of me doing a wash on a sweater that I have probably not washed since last season. It's not great because I'm trying to record it with one hand, but it goes through the steps. Basically, you are going to use a wool wash. I like Euclid. There are others, there's Soak. It doesn't really matter. I don't notice that, any of them are especially better or worse than the others. If you, for example, are going to wash your sweaters outside, you might want to make sure you're using something that's biodegradable and safe for the environment, so you can just dump your water out. The other thing is I really prefer to use no rinse wool wash because trying to rinse the soap out of your sweater can be tricky. So we fill our, in my case, sink with water and a little bit of wool wash. You don't need a ton. Soak our sweater, leave it in there a while, 20, 30 minutes. Drain the water, gently squeeze out as much as you can. Then you're going to put your sweater in a towel. Now, I've definitely seen some lovely reels where people nicely lay their sweater flat in the towel and then meticulously roll the towel up. I don't even bother with that. I just dump the sweater on the towel and roll it up. And then you're going to do the little sweater dance.
We're happy, we're dancing.
Which is you are going to stand on top of the towel with your sweater all wrapped up in it and walk back and forth to squeeze the water out of your sweater without, you're not wringing, you're not, it's protected by the towel and you're just putting pressure to squeeze the excess water out. Then you are going to find a flat surface to lay your sweater on. I use the bed in our guest room most of the time. It's not great. Sometimes the cats lay on it, but you want to lay on a wet sweater, I guess that's your deal. And you're going to lay it flat to dry. You don't really need to reblock your sweater. So it should mostly retain the shape that you blocked it into originally. If it doesn't, you're welcome to reblock it. You shouldn't really need to use pins and things, but you may need to, your sweaters or your sleeves are too long, shrink them back up. You're just basically going to lay it out nice and flat and let it dry. And that's it. That is the whole sweater washing process. And again, it is a little labor intensive, but if it's only a couple of times a year, it's really no big deal. So there you have it. That is how we are caring for our wool sweaters, whether hand knit or not. No washing machines. Don't wash them too much, but definitely wash them occasionally. And best to do it by hand with a nice wool wash. I'd love to hear, if you guys have any tips or tricks for washing and airing out and cleaning your sweaters in between washes. Definitely leave a comment. I would love to hear it. If you've tried the snow washing, I know, as I said, everyone's doing that on the reels. I'd love to hear your experience with that. Anything you have to contribute, do please leave a comment. Thank you so much for checking out this week's video. It was a relatively short one because, again, we've got 5 Saturdays in January and I publish on Saturdays. So Thank you for joining me for this one. Don't forget to come back next week for my monthly podcast episode sharing all my whips and finished objects and things. If you found this video useful or educational or entertaining, I hope that you will give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. New knitting videos here every Saturday. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you soon in another video. Bye.